You've found Wickett on Wisconsin, your one-stop podcast for all things Packers, Brewers, Bucks, and the rest of your favorite teams from all over the state of Wisconsin. We're powered by Wisconsin Sports Heroics, online at wisportsheroics.com and the Wisconsin Podcast Association. And now, here's your host, Mike Wickett.
Yo! Hopefully you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. All that in the rear-view mirror. Still full, I'm sure. Let's jump right in to the podcast this week. Last night on Sunday Night Football, Packers lose to the Eagles. And normally, if this was a regular game with a regular ending, I think people are real mad. Like, I'm not happy with what I saw last night, but I'm kind of happy for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, we finally got to see, okay, maybe there is some potential with Jordan Love. We'll get more into Love coming up later on in the podcast. We'll talk about Aaron Rodgers here. Got a lot of thoughts on what we saw out of Aaron Rodgers in the last 6 weeks and what should have actually been done but was not done and really angered me. But I didn't do a podcast after the Tennessee loss, and I'm going to couple thoughts from that game into the Eagles game because it kind of boiled down to the same thing. I mean, think about this. The offense scored 30 last night. The offense scored 30 points. The offense had 187 yards out of its running backs. The offense scored a couple of touchdowns through the air. And they got beat by double figures. They got beat because Joe Barry's defense, once again, either isn't putting anybody in the right position to win, can't put anybody in the right position to win, isn't good enough to win. In the Tennessee game, it's really weird to say this, but in the Tennessee game, it wasn't Derrick Henry that beat the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field. It was the right arm. Can't believe I'm saying this. It was the right arm of Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill beat you, came in and threw for over 300 yards at Lambeau Field. And how did he do it? Well, they played right into the weakness of the Green Bay Packers. Derrick Henry didn't blow you away. Every single pass play, when it was because Henry would loosen them up, pick up 3-4 yards, 2nd and 6, and Green Bay's defensive backs were playing 6 yards off the ball, 7 yards off the ball. So immediately, Tannehill and his receivers, it doesn't matter who it was, Treylon Burks, whoever, they didn't have to work very hard to pick up 5 or 6 or 7 of those yards they needed on a long second down. And it seemed like every single time from my couch, and you probably noticed it as well, if it was 3rd and 7, they got 7. And it was usually a crossing pattern over the middle where there was nobody really pressing any of these wide receivers at the line. And Barry never adjusted. If I know it and you know it, how does Joe Barry not know it? And we've seen this soft pass coverage from Barry all year. Fast forward to Sunday Night Football against the Philadelphia Eagles. We know the soft spot on this Green Bay Packers defense is the middle. And Philadelphia attacked it, much like Mike Vrabel's team attacked a weakness in the Green Bay Packers defense a week ago on Thursday Night Football. The Eagles attacked the Green Bay Packer weakness on Sunday Night Football. Nick Sirianni said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to take our three-headed monster of Miles Sanders and Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott and the unbelievable Jalen Hurts, the MVP candidate in Jalen Hurts, and for the most part, we're going to punch you in the mouth, up the gut, and see if you can stop us. And for 4 quarters, Green Bay could not stop that running attack. 363 yards on the ground. In an NFL game. That happens in college. That doesn't happen in the National Football League. And it doesn't matter if you're going to blame Barry or you're going to blame the players. The Packers were powerless against the Philadelphia Eagles and their running attack. There was nothing Kenny Clark could do. There was nothing all the way on the back line that Adrian Amos could do. And without Devondre Campbell, Joe Barry's defense was completely outmanned against maybe the best offensive line in football, that three-headed running attack, and Jalen Hurts. Philly had 500 yards of offense. These sound like college numbers. These are video game numbers. But no, it happened to Joe Barry's defense. Other teams know how to attack Green Bay's defense, and Green Bay does nothing or can't do anything to adjust. Maybe they try to adjust and can't, or they don't try to adjust because Barry isn't going to allow them to do that. Either way, last night and the Tennessee game, and for most of this year, I think it's safe to say this may have been the death nail in the coffin for Joe Barry. And whether it happens this week, this month, or at the end of the year, I don't know. But when your defense gets shredded by Ryan Tannehill one week and then gives up 500 yards, 363 on the ground, with that much draft capital invested, that much talent, first-round talent on your defense, somebody's going to have to take the fall here, and it's going to be Joe Barry. And what's funny is Barry was an improvement over Pettin, and Pettin was an improvement over Dom Capers. And it's still not a defense anybody fears. Even though stats will tell you they're a top 10, top 12, whatever, they're not. They get punched in the mouth, and they can't recover. That's the simple truth about this team. So maybe that was one of the things, and I don't like to see guys get fired. If you've ever listened to me on the radio or you listen to this podcast, I'm not a, you got to fire everybody guy. That's not me. I don't do that. But I think this is going to be the end for Joe Barry. And who's going to replace him? Don't know. I have no idea. Obviously, if you're a Wisconsin sports fan, Jim Leonard's name all of a sudden becomes a little more possible than, say, 48 hours ago. I'll talk about Fickell and Jim Leonard and how they tie into Brett Favre coming up at the end of the podcast. Real quick, shout out to one of our sponsors. Thanks to my good friends over at Great Lakes Dragaway. Couldn't do the podcast without Great Lakes Dragaway. And don't forget, now the snow is flying. It's cold in Wisconsin, which means they're closing up shop until the spring. But if you have the need for speed, and that phrase came back this summer, thank you, Top Gun, well then the fastest quarter mile in the Midwest is for you. And that is my friends at Great Lakes Dragaway. Grab those gift cards for the Christmas list, all right, for the gearhead, for the race fan, for great family entertainment. It's Great Lakes Dragaway online, greatlakesdragaway.com. They'll have a whole schedule out for the spring and the summer coming your way. If you're a gearhead, if you love to drive, if you know a gearhead or know someone who loves to drive, or maybe just somebody who enjoys sitting watching machines fly down the track, Great Lakes Dragaway is for you. And this Christmas, cross off 1, 2, or 3 people from your Christmas gift list by shopping online for gift cards from Great Lakes Dragaway online, greatlakesdragaway.com. And please tell them Wickett sent you. We appreciate their support here on Wickett on Wisconsin on this podcast. You know, the other story out of yesterday was the Aaron Rodgers story. And I'm going to back it up to going into the weekend, going into the game. We found out Saturday or Sunday that not only is Aaron's thumb bothering him, but Aaron has an avulsion, which I never heard that word before, but apparently a tendon or whatever ripped off the bone when he threw the Hail Mary or since the Hail Mary against the Giants in London. That thumb is really, really bad. Well, back in October when I did a podcast, you can go back and check this, all right? I don't do a lot of I told you so because nobody likes I told you so guy. But the Green Bay Packers need to be held accountable, all right? Accountable for not shutting Aaron Rodgers down. And whether that was because of Aaron Rodgers, whether or not that was because of Matt LaFleur, whether or not that was because of, say, Brian Gutekunst, whoever, wherever the power struggle lies, Aaron Rodgers should have been shut down. I told you Aaron Rodgers should have been shut down. I said if the thumb, and I gave Aaron Rodgers the benefit of the doubt because I believe there is still MVP DNA in that body, an MVP talent in that arm and in those legs and in that head. I still believe that. But Aaron Rodgers should have been shut down for a month, 3 games, 4 games, 5 games. Because as I told you, Rodgers and company weren't going 4-1 in a 5-game stretch that included the Buffalo game, the Dallas game, the Philly game, Washington, and Detroit. So if you thought they were going to get 1, at most 2, with a banged-up Aaron Rodgers, why not bench him for Jordan Love? And more on Love coming up, because what we all saw on Sunday night got a lot of people excited, but why not bench him if Love can get you 1 or 2? They're in this same predicament now, and it would be nice to have maybe 100% or very close to 100% Aaron Rodgers throwing the football as opposed to what we have now. Season is over if you're a Packers fan. I think a healthy Jordan Love, based on what I saw on Sunday night, more on Love in a minute, I think a healthy Jordan Love beats the Lions. I think a healthy Jordan Love beats the Washington Commanders. I don't know if they beat Dallas. Let's just say they do at home. That's 3-2 as opposed to 1-4 in that stretch. And now let's imagine that Packers record, which is 4-8 right now. Let's say they pick up 2 more wins, 1 less loss. They got 6 wins on the year. They got the rest of this run to try to catch one of those wild card spots. Would have been easier with Aaron Rodgers. 100% Aaron Rodgers. That is either on Aaron Rodgers and his arrogance. That is either on Rodgers or Matt LaFleur. LaFleur for not stepping up and saying, look, this is what's best for the team. This could be on Brian Gutekunst for not getting in that office and saying, this has to happen. But the Packers should have shut Aaron Rodgers down. I told you this was what was going to happen. Those kinds of injuries don't get better. And then on Sunday night, Rodgers now has the rib injury. And we heard from LaFleur today and we heard from Rodgers, if he's healthy, he wants to play the Bears. There's nothing I know it's the whole mathematical elimination thing, but this Aaron Rodgers with the bad ribs and maybe the busted cartilage and the bad thumb, this Aaron Rodgers isn't going to go on a hot streak. This is not a run-the-table situation right now. You could have if you were healthy, if you came back and you were absolutely healthy, but guess what? Packers chose not to bench Aaron Rodgers and shut him down. So now he gets real banged up. You could tell the thumb, and I feel bad. Like, I'm not a get Rodgers out of town and start Jordan Love. You can be a fan of both. You can be a fan of Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love. You could have been a fan of Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre. It doesn't mean, I have to pick one or the other. But what was best for the Green Bay Packers was to sit Rodgers for a month, let Love figure some things out. Heck, now we know he probably could have won a couple of those games. And then get Rodgers for the post-Thanksgiving stretch at or near 100%. Now, you lose all those games, season's pretty much over, and it's basically a get Rodgers right, wrap him in bubble wrap for 2023. That's, to me, the situation that the Green Bay Packers are in right now. I don't think they're in a situation where you can look at, Jordan Love and say, take us on a magic carpet ride and get us to the postseason. We got to run the table here. Starts with the Bears. You figure the rest out. There's a Viking game at the end. There's a Lions game at the end. They do finish the year with 2 straight at home at Lambeau. So, Rodgers last night, 11 of 16 for $140, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. And it hurt as a fan to see Rodgers going off and getting beat up. The dude was a straight-up warrior last night. Some of the best memories I will ever have, if this was in fact it for Rodgers, which I doubt it is, but some of the best memories I will ever have as a football fan, as a Green Bay Packers fan, have been to be able to watch Aaron Rodgers. And I've called him and still believe he is the greatest thrower of the football the game has ever seen. And his resume will not look as good as Tom Brady's, but I believe that is the most talented man we have ever seen play in the National Football League at that position. And it hurt to watch him get knocked around. And if that is indeed it, I will be an Aaron Rodgers football fan for the rest of my life. But you have to admit, you liked what you saw out of Jordan Love, right? Like, you have to admit that Love came in and looked like a completely different quarterback. If you go back and watch Love coming out of college, raw. But what you saw last night had a little bit of polish. More on that in a quick sec. Want to thank another one of our sponsors, Nick Packard, nickpackard.com. If your marketing agency is underperforming, or if you don't even have a marketing person helping your small business grow, take that next step, or that medium-sized business grow and take that next step, you need to hire my guy, Nick Packard. Online, nickpackard.com. He's a fractional chief marketing officer for your business. They're going to use all of their brain power. These are nerds my guy Nick is a nerd that knows how to raise your SEO, meaning your search engine optimization. His job is to enhance your digital presence on the internet. So when people type in blah, 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 whatever it is you may sell, your service, your good, whatever it is, how long does it take for people to scroll to see your business? That is what Nick Packard can do. He can optimize your SEO to have it go up, 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 up. So it's one of the first things that people will see when they're searching. Sometimes you got to ask Siri or hit that Google button or whatever. That's what Nick will do for you. NickPackard.com, NickPackard.com. And the cool thing is you work directly with Nick. There's not a bunch of layers of different interns and, this guy over here and that. But no. You work with Nick, and he's fractional. You're only going to pay for the time you need, and he's very flexible to fit your budget. Online, NickPackard.com. And just for listening to the podcast, you get a free digital ecosystem assessment. They're going to check on your website, your social channels, your email marketing. They'll see how you do. Sign up online today, nickpackard.com. NP Connect, the marketing agency redefined. Go online today, nickpackard.com. Tell them I sent you. He's right there in Franklin, Wisconsin. You have to admit, right? Jordan Love looked better. If you don't admit that Jordan Love looked better than he's ever looked in that small handful, 2 series, then you're just a hater. Coming out of college, he was very, very raw. And one of the differences, one of the things we have been very blessed with when we get to watch Aaron Rodgers, quick motion, quick release, fast, out, ball up, fire, quick. Not a lot of wasted motion. When you watch Love, when he first came out in the first couple of years, big arm motion, right? He's got real long arms, tall dude, long arms, and he's got that big motion. Last night, we saw more zip on the ball, a lot less wasted excess motion out of Jordan Love. It was not so big. Like Jordan Love looked like a polished passer last night. And I am not trying to push him into the starting lineup for the next 10 years or etch his name in Canton, okay? But just simply, and I don't care if the balls were caught. Aaron Jones dropped one. We know Christian Watson had the one that went to the house. Questionable non-PI call on Randall Cobb in the end zone. But just watching Love from snap to read to step to throw, and not this big hook that he used to throw the first couple of seasons when he didn't get a lot of playing time. It was quick, and it was beautiful. And it made me step up to my TV, and I was like, wait a minute, that's an NFL-looking delivery. Aaron Rodgers, boom, quick, snap, throw. Aaron learned from Brett Favre not to fully plant, little hop when you get rid of the football as to prevent that Tom Brady, that Dan Marino injury that busts that Carson Palmer injury. Jordan Love's starting to do that. Jordan Love learned that from Aaron. Aaron learned that from Brett. And it was amazing to see some of these quick reactions. And then the throws were on the money. Again, small sample size. We're not talking about a guy who had 35 pass attempts yesterday. But when he did make throws, they were good throws, good-looking throws. Aaron Jones should have caught the one on the sideline that crossed to Watson. Love to Watson is now going to be my absolute favorite thing. If indeed we do get Jordan Love going forward, I'm a Jordan Love guy. Recent podcasts, I'm a Christian Watson guy. If you follow me on Twitter, you know how I fully felt about Love to Christian Watson. Because if Love can deliver those kinds of passes, and the dude with the 4.3 speed in Christian Watson, it looked effortless when he pulled away from the defender last night on Sunday Night Football. It was unreal. That connection is going to be one to keep an eye on if, in fact, it is the one we get to watch as Packers fans. I have no idea what's going to happen with Rodgers. His contract is so very complicated, and it's not beneficial for the Packers to get rid of Aaron Rodgers. It's a Band-Aid ripoff that I don't know if the Green Bay Packers are ready to go ahead and deal with. But I don't know. I have no idea. Cap goes up. Cap's not real. We'll talk about that at a later time. But I was so very impressed with what I saw out of Jordan Love in the small sample size that I hope it quieted a few haters. I do. I really do. Love was 6 of 9 for $113, threw the touchdown pass. I hope he starts against the Bears because, Bears owner Aaron Rodgers, torn cartilage, maybe bruised, but whatever it is, Aaron, sit this one out, man. Let Love get the start. Let him get a piece of what it's like to be an owner of the Chicago Bears at Soldier Field. Bears secondary, not great, but at least I would love to see 4 quarters of what we have seen from, what we saw the other night. I'd love to see that against Chicago at Soldier Field. I don't want to see 4 quarters of what we saw out of Joe Brady's defense. I do want to see what we saw out of Jordan Love. There's a difference there. That's the difference. By the way, again, this is the weekly podcast where I tell you, oh, man, the Packers need to run the football because it works. A.J. Dillon, 8 carries, 64 yards, and a touchdown. Also caught 3 balls for 24 yards. That's 11 touches for 88 yards for Dillon. Aaron Jones, 12 for 43 on the ground, 3 catches for 56. That's 15 touches for 99 yards. That's 26 touches for 187 yards. Also, Jones had a TD. They had 2 touchdowns combined, all right? They had, it makes so much sense to get those guys the football, to get Jones and Dillon the ball, and I'm a skipping record when I talk about that, so... What am I thinking? What am I thinking by keeping on, by continuing to bring up the running game? So that's it on the Packers. They've got the Bears next. I don't know if Fields plays. I don't know if Rodgers plays. We'll find out. I do want to mention, obviously, the other big story that happened and may involve the Packers in some way, and that's Jim Leonard not getting the full-time gig at Wisconsin. Luke Fickell getting the job over Jim Leonard. This is a slam dunk hire. This was a great hire by the Wisconsin Badgers, by athletic director Chris McIntosh, to go outside of the program and get a guy who is a proven program builder and a proven winner. And that's what Luke Fickell is. At Cincinnati, he got a team to the college football playoff. Nobody does that. They were the first little guy ever to get there. He knows what it is like. He is a Midwest guy. He's an Ohio guy, whatever. But he's a Midwest guy. He knows the Big Ten. He was, of course, a coach at Ohio State. What he has done at Cincinnati with the pros he's put into the NFL with Sauce Gardner, who is probably the best defensive back in the NFL, if not top 5 in his rookie season. And to have the stellar record that he's got at Cincinnati, it was a no-brainer hire. And I know, Wisconsin fan is upset. Wisconsin fan loves Jim Leonard. Wisconsin fan thought Jim Leonard was going to get the job. And I'll be honest, if I was going to bet my house, my paycheck, one of my kids, I would have betted on Jim Leonard getting that job. But he didn't. You know why? Because Luke Fickell is a better coach than Jim Leonard. What has Wisconsin done since Leonard got the job from Paul Chryst? I mean, if they would have won a couple more games, maybe he keeps that thing. You lose to Iowa, you lose to Minnesota. Boom, rivalry games, lost. Boosters maybe changing their tune, who are all about Jim Leonard getting that job, but they go outside the Big Ten, they go outside the program, they think outside the box, and they get Luke Fickell. I'm going to tell you why this is great. In a couple of years, USC and UCLA are on their way into the Big Ten. And I don't know if there's going to be divisions. I think there will be divisions. I don't know. I have no idea if there are going to be divisions. Obviously, you would assume USC and UCLA are going to be in the Big Ten West. Outside of Jim Harbaugh and maybe Ryan Day, the Big Ten West is going to have the power of coaches shift into its division. Think about this. You're going to have Lincoln Riley at USC. You're going to have Chip Kelly at UCLA. Now you've got Luke Fickell, who's been to the college football playoff at Wisconsin. Matt Rule, who is a great hire by Nebraska, is going to take over in Lincoln. Matt Rule took 1-11 Baylor to 11-1 in a Sugar Bowl berth in 2 years. He won 20 games in his last 2 years at Temple. At Temple, okay? Nobody wins at Temple. Matt Rule's a good hire. So now you're going to have Fickell, you're going to have Rule, you're going to have Riley, you're going to have Kelly. You're still going to have Kirk Ferentz around. And say what you want, Ferentz is still a damn good football coach. This year's offense and his son Brian notwithstanding. And Bielema's in the West too. Over in the East, assuming maybe you kick Purdue to the East, because Lafayette's a little more East, I think, of everybody else there. So now you'll have 8-8 in the Big Ten. Harbaugh? Day? I mean, Mel Tucker's done nothing. James Franklin's not a big game coach. Maybe Ryan Day really was born on third. So with the power coming to the West, Wisconsin couldn't just hire the feel-good guy. Luke Fickell is an Ohio guy and will be able to go into the hotbed of high school football that is Ohio and pull a prospect or two. Obviously, the Buckeyes have the fence around, but once in a while, those guys slip through the cracks. 3 stars in Ohio are generally really good football players. He's going to recruit the Midwest outside of Wisconsin. He's going to recruit nationally because he can say, I've been to the college football playoff. And if you're about to watch the college football playoffs expand to 12. Big Ten wants Wisconsin in. Wisconsin wants to be in. All right. You're going to have USC coming to town. You're going to have UCLA coming to town. Nebraska's, I think, finally got this thing right. And, of course, what are they? I mean, the East is going to send Michigan and or Ohio State, seemingly with Harbaugh figuring things out. You needed a player, and Luke Fickell was a knockdown, drag-out, perfect hire for this moment of where Wisconsin is, where they could seemingly go one way. But I think this is the right move. They're going to lose some recruits. It's fine. And remember, Jim Leonhard has never done this at any level. Now, what does Jim Leonhard do? I don't know. He and Fickell talked today. He may wind up sticking around as the defensive coordinator. I know Packers fans would love to see him replace Joe Barry. That didn't happen in the past where the opportunity was there. So I don't know what happens with Jim Leonhard. But the people that want Jim Leonhard to get that job are the same ones that believe Brett Favre could win more games than Jordan Love. And that's not true. Luke Fickell's a winner. Luke Fickell's a winner at a smaller school. He's a Midwest guy, and he's going to win at Wisconsin. I do believe that. I think it's a really, really good hire by the Badgers. That is it. Podcast over. I am done. Thank you for checking it out. I appreciate it. Please rate it, like it, subscribe to it on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on Google, wherever you are listening to it now. Recommend it to a Wisconsin friend. If you need anything, you want to talk about all the Wisconsin sports, wisportsheroics.com. Thanks to my friend Nick Packard for sponsoring the program online, nickpackard.com. Also, Great Lakes Dragaway online, greatlakesdragaway.com. This has been Wickett on Wisconsin. My name is Mike Wickett. As always, go Pack, go Bucks, go Brewers, and Badger fan, congrats on the hire on Wisconsin.